Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 members present, the House is now in session. The clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, March the 21st, 2021.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to be considered the reading of the journal from the previous day.
So ordered. Petitions, memorials, and other papers. Report of the Committee on Appropriations. Report number 19. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 155, Higher Education Tuition Exemption for Foster Care Recipients and Homeless Youth. Alterations and reports. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 244, Maryland Funding Accountability and Transparency Act, non-budgeted state agencies. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 405, Higher Education Student Identification Cards, Required Information. Favorable.
Question for the House is adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 439, Public Institutions of Higher Education Student Athletes Jordan McNair Safe and Fair Play Act. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 516, State Board of Environmental Health Specialists, Fees, General Fund. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 641, State Retirement and Pension System, Fiduciary Insurance. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 642, State Retirement and Pension System, COVID-19 related death benefits. Clarification. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 761, State Retirement and Pension System, Executive Directors, Membership and Vesting. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 922, Office of Legislative Audits, Acceptance and Investigation of Allegations of Fraud, Waste, and Abuse. Favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Appropriations, report number 20. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 85, Creating Governor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 413, Maryland Legal Services Corporation Funding, Abandoned Property. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 477, Enoch Pratt Free Library Operating Hours and Funding. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 509, National Capital Strategic Economic Development Program, eligibility. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the subcommittee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
There are two amendments. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 conforms the bill to the House bill that's already passed this chamber. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 526, Legal Education Success Collaborative, established. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 660, State Lottery Fund, Maryland Humanities Council, funding. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be the reading of the amendment. Amendment number
So
1
ordered.
is technical. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 699, Baltimore Regional Neighborhood Initiative Program Fund. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing subcommittee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
The amendment conforms the bill to the House bill that already passed this chamber. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 717, State Personnel Collective Bargaining, Exclusive Representative Access to New Employees. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Gentleman from Talbot in the annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the floor leader rise for a couple questions on this bill?
Yes.
Could you just briefly share with me what this bill does? I was reading some of the testimony. University System of Maryland seemed to urge a unfavorable on the bill, just so maybe you can share with me what the bill does and about their concerns.
Yeah, I don't think that this is the bill that you're referring to. This bill just simply allows collective bargaining for new employees, alters it so that an exclusive a representative must be notified of a new employee and specifies that information must be provided to each new employee.
So in the testimony that the University System of Maryland has here, it says that the bill requires the institutions to transmit a new employee's name, unit, and all employee identification numbers, including workday identification numbers, to the union president within 24 hours of the employee's start date. Is that still part of this bill?
Yes.
And so can you share with me why, because they're saying that this is unacceptable. Can you share with me why they have that concern and maybe your perspective from a policy decision as to why we're trying to pass a bill that is being opposed by the System of Maryland University?
Frequently they convey to us concerns whenever they require to do more thorough job of communicating around new employees or existing employees with respect to, collective bargaining or other policy kind of implications that we have on these bills. But this, I mean, we felt was no imposition to the university system to do this.
Well, okay, so if let's say I wanted to go work to University of Maryland, I don't know what they would hire me for, but it appears that whether or not I want it, they're forced to give my information to the union. What if I said no? What if I said as a prospective employee that I would not want that information shared? Does the bill still require the university system to share that with the union?
We added privacy protections to the bill, which I think took care of those concerns.
Okay. All right. What part of the bill actually speaks to that so I can review that? I know this is on second reader. I'd like to actually see that.
Actually, the subcommittee or the sponsor is here, and I will let him address that.
Thank you.
Subcommittee.
Yeah. Do you mind? Sorry. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Do you mind repeating that last question?
So I was posing an example. I'm deciding I want to work for the University of Maryland, and so as a prospective employee, I would not want my information shared with the union. I'm electing to make that decision. Does the university system have to provide that information, notwithstanding my objection?
As the bill was amended, the university system is required to give certain information of the new employee. The information is actually given with 5 days notice instead of that 24-hour notice that we originally put into the bill. And if a person actually once they have that information, they are not actually required to attend, but it is encouraged that they attend to hear out the union representative.
No, I mean, I guess that's not answering my question. What if I know going in I don't want to have my information shared with
You're
the
going to
union?
have to speak up.
My issue is what if I don't want my information shared with the union? What if I don't want to have them calling me or emailing me? I don't want to engage in that conversation. I know you're saying that it's an elective thing that I may or may not want to show up. I'm saying at the outset, if I'm an employee of the university system, well, one, is it still forcing the university system to share my information? But two, what's the policy decision that you're trying to make that would force the university system to share information that I would not otherwise want to share?
This is not personal information. This is information that you will have as an employee. So your workday number is not your actual telephone number, it's your workday number that's assigned to you from the university system. And any information such as your email, it's email or information that you would have as an employee that they would give to the union representative in order for you to meet with them or for them to get in contact with you.
So the university system in their testimony is saying that this bill significantly expands the union's initial access to new employees hired into bargaining unit eligible positions on several important fronts and creates new...
That was before the amendment.
Well, that's what I was trying to get at from the beginning. So can you tell me how the bill was amended to address the concerns of the University System of Maryland?
It's page 2 and 3.
Page 2 and 3, okay.
I'm sorry, 3 and 4, where it was amended.
All right, I'm going
Excludes
there.
your social security number, makes it all confidential. It deals with all the concerns that were raised by the university.
Okay, so thank you, sponsor of the bill. I know it's on second reader. Now that you've pointed me to the part of the bill that I need to look at, I'll look at it for maybe an amendment. Thank you.
Is there any further debate? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 720, Education Maryland School for the Blind Pay Plan, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 767, Higher Education Hunger-Free Campus Grant Program, established. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Be so much considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
There are 2 amendments. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 matches the bill to the House cross file, which passed this chamber. I move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 882, Operating Budget, Education Programs, Mandated Funding, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 913, Human Services Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, Heat and Eat Program, and Study on Maryland Energy Assistance Program eligibility, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Message from the Senate, House Bill 135. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 135, Pharmacist Administration of Self-Administered Medications and Maintenance Injectable Medications, Christopher King Access to Treatment Act.
The clerk will read the message from the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate recedes from its position on House Bill 135. Said bill is returned herewith.
Report of the Committee on Environment and Transportation, report number 39. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 349, Environment Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund, Use of Funds, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 453, Allegheny County and Garrett County Archery Hunting Safety Zone, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 616, Baltimore City Soil Conservation District Authority to Establish, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 45. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 78, Maryland Institute for Emergency Medical Services Systems, Administration of Ketamine Data Collection, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 114, Criminal Procedure, Expunction of Conviction and Subsequent Offender Penalties, Driving While Privilege is canceled, suspended, refused, or revoked, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 270, Crimes, Indecent Exposure, Definition, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 335, Courts, Non-Governmental Corporate Parties, Disclosure Statements, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 46. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 86, Correctional Education, Changes to Mandatory Education Requirements, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 109, Secretary of State, Address Confidentiality Programs, Merger of Programs, and Expanded Participant Eligibility, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 118, Correctional Services Warrant Apprehension Unit Transfer, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 146, Department of Juvenile Services Deputy Secretaries, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 267, Family Law, Investigation of Suspected Child Abuse and Neglect Preliminary Report to State's Attorney, favorable.
The question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognizing the gentlelady from the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the floor leader rise, please?
Hi.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. Can you let us know what this bill does, please?
This is a departmental bill that repeals the requirement for a local Department of Social Services or a law enforcement agency to report within 10 days after receiving first notice of suspected child abuse that is alleged to have occurred in the state, the preliminary findings of the investigation to the local state's attorney. The reason that's getting removed, they still have to provide that information when the report is completed, and there are other services now that are in place to help provide that information and to keep people up to date with what's going on with the child abuse investigation. This was seen as being kind of duplicative, and so it goes to right after, I believe it's 5 days after they have to provide the information to the state's attorney's office. The state's attorneys were neutral on the bill, and again, it was requested by the Department of Human Services.
So if you can just let us know for clarification, if there is a suspected child abuse or neglect, and let's say a counselor thinks that's going on, how long do they have to report, and who do they report to?
Well, this is an issue more of when the local department, when they or the police get the indication. So it would be that person reporting it to the police, then the police have 10 days to report that to, or I'm sorry, there's 10 days after that is reported to the police that they have to give a preliminary investigation to the state's attorney. So this doesn't necessarily go to the person who's reporting it. This goes to the law enforcement and that triggering a 10-day period for the state's attorney to kind of have to get that initial investigation.
So the person makes a report to the police have 10 days, but now you've changed that amount of time?
Well, the police begin their investigation. The current law now is that they would have to provide an initial investigation or a preliminary report. It removes the need for the preliminary report and just continues to require that 5 business days after completion of the investigation, the local department and local law enforcement agency makes a complete written report to
social services or
to the local state's attorney. So
to the state's attorney.
To the state's attorney.
Does that report go back to the counselor or to the parents? Or so is then a report given to the parent that there's been an investigation of child abuse or neglect.
I think we're kind of talking about a little bit about two different things. I'm trying to remember the specific part there. This again has to do with the final report does go to the parent after the investigation is final. So that once that final investigation is done, then a copy of that report goes
They
to
do. The parent does
The parent
finally
gets
get
it, yes.
some notification that someone made a complaint that your child is a
That was-
victim of
Correct.
abuse or neglect. The police do an investigation, and that report is given to the state's attorney and I guess DSS if appropriate.
DHR.
DHR,
Yes.
and then it goes, a copy of it does go to the parents so that they're aware of that.
Correct. At the end of the investigation. So it allows for that work to become a little more streamlined, and that preliminary report is not really necessary.
Okay.
Especially given some of the other services that police departments and locals are doing in this area to provide services at the front end of what's going on.
Okay, this is great. Thank you so much.
Is there any further debate? If not, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 342, Maryland Military Department, sale of superfluous armories, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 47. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 327, Civil Actions, Financial Exploitation of Successful Adults and Older Adults, Maryland SAFE Act. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The committee amendments add language to the bill relating to treble damages. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Health and Government Operations, report number 27. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 5, Public Health, Implicit Bias Training and the Office of Minority Health and Health Disparities. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 13, Certified Nursing Assistants, Certificate Renewal, Training Program Requirements. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 111, Healthcare Facilities Dialysis Treatment Services Training, David Selby Dialysis Parity Act. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 514, Health Facilities, Hospitals, Medical Debt Protection. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 744, State Board of Nursing, Certified Nursing Assistant Advisory Committee, Membership and Meetings. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 815, Mental Health Facilities, Sexual Abuse and Harassment, Reporting and Prevention, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 923, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, eligibility, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Health and Government Operations, report number 28. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 607, State Health and Welfare Benefits Program, requirements for selection of pharmacy benefits manager. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 changes the sponsor and makes other technical changes. Amendment number 2 strikes the bill, authorizes a retired judge who retired at the mandatory constitutional age with less than 5 years of credible service to enroll and participate in health insurance benefit options under the State Employee and Retiree Health Benefits Program, and specifies that the retiree or the retiree's surviving spouse or dependent child is entitled to 1/16 of the state subsidy allowed a state employee for each year of the retiree's credible service. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know this is my committee, but I have a question for the parliamentarian.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the parliamentarian.
Thank you so much. So I recall last year we had some debate on whether it was permissible to strike a bill and replace it with something else. This just dawned on me as I heard the amendments. Is that permissible? Weren't we told that was a rule in the... I didn't have enough time to look it up.
It has to relate, so it depends, I think, on how it relates to the original bill.
Well, this doesn't relate to the bill. Can you tell me what that rule number is, and where's our parliamentarian across the street in the annex? Do you recall which rule it is?
Let me double check, please.
Okay.
Hold on one moment.
Thank you. 46. Way to go.
It's Rule 46. I'm just getting my rule book out here.
Turn around. Turn around.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So
yeah, it says that by the use of the phrase strike out everything and replace it with. So is this permissible to do this?
So since I'm not on the committee and I haven't read the original bill and the changes, I think that we'd have to take a look at it. So maybe what we should do is take a moment to put this maybe at the end of the calendar, end of session today, so that we can take a look at it.
That would be great. And I apologize to my chairman. I should have brought this up in our committee, but it didn't dawn on me until our good subcommittee chair used those words, strike the bill and replace it. And I thought, gosh, we were told last year we couldn't do that. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
So clarification, Madam Parliamentarian, special order to when?
Let's do till the end of session today.
Okay. Question for the House is the special order HB 607 to the appropriate time later on today. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill has been special ordered. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 100, Task Force on Oral Health in Maryland. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker. Moves to must be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
As amended, this bill is identical to its cross-file House Bill 368. The amendment adds a representative from the Maryland Rural Health Association to the task force. I move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 298, State Board of Pharmacy, Pharmacy Closure, Notice to Customers, the Dennis Robin Act. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Someone from HGO?
Sorry,
Floor
Madam
Leader?
Speaker. No, I'm good. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendment alters the time frame of the notice from at least 30 days before the pharmacy closes to at least 14 days and strikes language providing an option for mailing notices. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 523, State Board of Examiners for Audiologists, Hearing Aid Dispensers, and Speech Language Pathologists, Duties, Appointment of Members, and Requirements for Licensees. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Be so much considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 removes the provision requiring the board to post a list of licensees online. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 836, State Board of Dental Examiners, Disciplinary Process and Actions Task Force. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 strikes provisions providing for rules and memberships of the task force. Amendment number 3 requires the board to study and report on certain aspects of its disciplinary process and how it compares to comparable licensing boards. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Health and Government Operations, report number 29. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 41, Health, Mental and Emotional Disorders, Consent, Mental Health Access Initiative. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Ways and Means. Report number 37. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 582, Cecil County Sales and Use Tax Exemption, Federal Facilities, Redevelopment Areas. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendment alters the definition of federal facilities redevelopment area for purposes of the bill to specify that the property must have been transferred from the federal government to the state or to Bainbridge Development Corporation and be entirely under the environmental oversight and management of a certain state hazardous substance response plan or the voluntary cleanup program. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next.
Senate Bill 102, income tax credits for preceptors in areas with health care workforce shortages. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to consider the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments conform the bill to its House cross file HB 1252, which passed this chamber 138 to 1. They reduce from 160 to 100 hours the number of training hours of the licensed physicians required to perform in a preceptor program rotation in order to qualify for a certain credit against the state income tax. Clarify the issuance of a credit certificate in the preceptor tax credit programs, extend the termination dates of the licensed physician and nurse practitioner preceptor income tax credits by 5 years, sunset the physician assistant preceptor tax credit established under the bill after 5 years, and require the Maryland Department of Health to report certain information to the General Assembly regarding the preceptor tax credits. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next.
Senate Bill 133, Local Tax Relief for Working Families, Act of 2021. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title?
Madam Speaker.
I see you there. Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the floor leader please rise for a couple questions?
Madam Speaker.
Floor leader.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, good morning.
Thank you. It's good to see you. I see that this was a cross-file HB 319, which I remember. Can you tell, and it looks like it's different from HB 319, can you tell me some of the differences in the Senate bill from the House bill?
Sure. So the primary difference is, you may recall there was a question about how this would impact disparity grants if a county chose to impose the local income tax on a bracketed basis. And so the Senate bill corrects for that to make sure that if a county decides to impose the local income tax on a bracketed basis, it will not work against them in terms of the disparity grants.
The disparity grant would fill in the gap for any of the revenue they feel like they lost.
Well, it wouldn't work against them in terms of their eligibility for the disparity grant.
And is it a tax increase on any of the brackets in the Senate bill?
No, this does not increase any taxes.
None of the local taxes? It's just,
No.
it's enabling legislation to allow them to increase the taxes. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. They already have the authority to increase the taxes. This allows them to increase the taxes on a bracketed basis or to decrease the taxes on a bracketed basis, as opposed to a flat fee.
So they can decrease the taxes, hence why
Yes.
the name of the bill is local. Do you mind if I special order this? Because it looks like it's quite a large bill, and I want to make sure I understand it, and it looks like it's an Anne Arundel County bill to me.
Well, this is a Senate bill, so it could be amended on third reader. Does that
You
that
can
work
still
for you?
special order on second reader if you wish.
Until when?
Mid-April, maybe?
That won't work.
Next session?
Next session? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Question for the House is Special Order SB 133 until the appropriate time next session. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The bill has been special ordered. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 257, Sales and Use Tax Vendor Collection Credit Job Training. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to consider the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendment conforms the bill to its cross-file by reducing from $250,000 to $100,000 the maximum amount of the sales tax vendor credit that a qualifying job training organization may claim in any calendar year. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 294, Cecil County Sales and Use Tax Exemption, Federal Facilities Redevelopment Areas, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill will be next.
Senate Bill 609, Economic Development, Maryland Industrial Development Financing Authority, Marketing Plan, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered to pass the third reading. Concurrence calendar number 12. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 173, Community Colleges State Funding Revision, Amendment Number 1.
Preparations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question for the House.
Amendment number 1 matches the House bill to the Senate bill passed by the House by 132 to 0. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 173 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 173, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next.
House Bill 904, State Personnel Collective Bargaining, Exclusive Representative Access to New Employees, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Moves to concur with the Senate amendments. Amendment number 1 amends the bill to match the House bill to the Senate bill. Move the amendment.
The gentleman from Talbot in the annex has a question regarding the amendment.
This will be super fast, Madam Speaker. Thank you. So I was up on House Bill 717. I printed it out and I'm looking at it. I guess I'll just ask for the sake of the conversation, does the amended version of the bill that we're voting on here incorporate the University System of Maryland's concerns, and are they neutral and or supportive on the bill now?
I cannot respond to their support, but it does incorporate the amendments of the previous bill.
Okay, thank you.
Any other further discussion? Question for the House is concurred the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 904 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 95 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 904, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 905, Education Workforce Development Sequence Scholarships Eligibility, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move to concur with the Senate amendments. Amendment number 1 amendment is to alter the eligibility requirement for the scholarship. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 905 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 905, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 937, State Lottery Fund, Maryland Humanities Council, funding, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move to concur with the Senate amendments. Amendment number 1, the amendment matches the House bill to the Senate bill. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 937 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 937, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Special order calendar number 83. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 132, Health, Mental, and Emotional Disorders, Consent Mental Health Access Initiative, favorable.
Recognizing the Vice Chair of the committee. Minority Leader, this is your motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My questions have been answered.
Okay. All right. What we're doing? Okay. All right. We're going to adopt the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The favorable report has been adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Recognizing the gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment number 413628.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Body, this is a complicated bill, and I don't know if everyone's had an opportunity to look over it, but I suggest that everyone takes a moment to consider it because this is a very big policy change for our state and for the children and the families of our state. In explaining what my amendment does, I'm going to take you back to my own childhood. Yep, to get excited. When I was a kid, my parents used to send me with some relative frequency, because I was a bit of a naughty kid, I'm sure that surprises no one here, to see therapists, social workers, and anyone that they thought might be able to wrangle me. One therapist in particular I went to spent a full hour telling me about her own child sex abuse. This was when I was a minor, by the way. And at the end of me listening to her talk for an hour, she tried to write me a prescription for Prozac because it worked for her. That was in the state of Maryland. Another therapist that I saw for many years one day offered me a prescription for Ritalin if I was willing to get my parents to allow me to go twice a week instead of once a week so she could double her income off of me. That also happened in the state of Maryland. Body, in the state of Maryland, we don't track abuse by psychiatrists through the Board of Physicians specifically. But it happens. I know it does because it's happened to me and it's happened to others that I know. Another time I found out about a child, I had a first-hand experience about a child I knew who was molesting his younger sisters. And when I went to the therapist he was seeing to tell him what was going on, because I thought certainly the family must not have told him, he told me that sometimes people in the country have these things happen. I am not joking. This was only a few years ago. There are therapists who are not doing a good job in our state. And because of the structure we have for complaints, we don't have a good picture of who they are and what they're doing. And because their patients are vulnerable people, extremely vulnerable in the case of children, Many of these complaints go unfiled. If you want to do a quick search, I'm sure you can find websites. There's many of them dedicated to this kind of abuse. What my amendment does is it says that if a healthcare provider provides consultation, diagnosis, or treatment for a mental or emotional disorder with a minor who consents under this section, they may be held liable for medical injury. This is the least that we can do for the vulnerable children of our state because, body, this drops the age of consent to 12 years old. Many of us in this body have children around that age. I think it's wholly inappropriate, and we've put the decision-making power completely in the hands of the therapist to decide if the child is mature enough to make these decisions. And finally, I want to touch on another issue, which I think is important to everyone here. There is serious issues with discrimination against people of color in psychiatric practice. Dr. Umar Johnson wrote a book called Psychoacademic Holocaust: The Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys. He outlines some of the extreme discrimination and the proliferation of labeling young black boys with ADHD when they do not have it, allowing children to consent to a diagnosis that will follow them for their entire lives and could have major implications on the future job prospects of those children, to me is unconscionable. Another study that came out in 2014 by Schwartz and Blankenship found that a misdiagnosis rate among our black members of our community is 3 to 4 times higher than for the white members of our community. A bill that allows young children to consent to a diagnosis, it's a very scary thing. It's a brave new world. So my amendment seeks to put some guardrails on this bill so that if there is an atrocious therapist, like some of the ones that I've personally met in the state of Maryland, that person will now be liable for the poor care that they've given to our most vulnerable minor children. And with that, Madam Speaker, I support this amendment. I hope others will as well.
Vice Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, colleagues. And I want to thank the delegate for giving me notice of the amendment. I'm really grateful, and the committee appreciates it. So I want to start by saying what the bill does, what the current law is, and why I ask the body respectfully to resist this amendment. Current law states that a minor who is at least 16 has the same capacity as an adult to consent to consultation, diagnosis, and treatment of a mental or emotional disorder by a healthcare provider or a clinic. The bill that you have in front of you today, House Bill 132, does the following. It lowers that age from 16 to 12 simply for the purpose of mental and emotional disorder. The bill that you have in front of you, if you look at the second page, line 28, section 21043, states the following. A healthcare provider may decide to provide information to a parent, guardian, or custodian of a minor under this paragraph 1 and 2 if the provider believes that the disclosure will lead, unless the provider believes that the disclosure will lead to harm to the minor or deter the minor from seeking care. In simple words, the bill in front of you allows a provider, and the providers that we're talking about in this bill, I want you to look at page 1 of the bill. Section 2104A1 is a license under the Health Occupation Article, and 2, acting within the scope of the individual's license to diagnose and treat mental and emotional disorder. Yes, every profession has good people and bad people. But we did not hear during the testimony from the board that the current people, professionals, healthcare providers that are already providing the care for the 16 years old have been a problem. And we're talking about advanced practice nurses, psychotherapists, nurse practitioner, psychologists, licensed clinical professional counselors, licensed clinical social workers, and marriage and family therapists. We received a letter of support from the social workers which do the majority of this work supporting this bill. But I also want to tell the body what else a minor, a 12-year-old in the state of Maryland, is allowed to do. So this is what they are presently allowed to do. A minor has the same capacity as an adult to consent to medical or dental treatment if the minor is married, if the parent is the parent of a child, or is living separate and apart from the minor's parent or guardian, whether with or without consent of the minor's parent or guardian, and is self-supporting regardless of the source of the minor's income. A minor, that's the 12-year-old, has the same capacity as an adult presently in Maryland, this is the law, to consent to medical treatment if, in the judgment of the attending physician, who does this every day, who can observe the child and look at their mannerism, their language, their capacity to understand. If, in the judgment of that attending physician, the life or health of the minor will be affected adversely by delaying treatment to obtain the consent of another individual. A minor, a 12-year-old in the state of Maryland, has the same capacity as an adult to consent to the following. This is the law right now. Treatment for or advice about drug abuse. So if the child has a drug abuse and is 12 years old, they can consent to treatment. But they cannot consent to treatment to deal with the mental or emotional disorder that is really related. It just makes no sense. A minor, a 12-year-old, can consent to treatment presently in the state of Maryland for or advice about alcoholism, treatment for or advice about venereal diseases, treatment for advice about pregnancy, treatment for or advice about contraception other than sterilization, physical examination and treatment of injuries from an alleged rape or sexual offense, physical examination to obtain evidence of an alleged rape or sexual offense, and finally, a minor, 12-year-old in the state of Maryland, can consent to the initial medical screening and physical examination on and after admission of the minor into a detention center. So if they are arrested, they can go ahead and consent if they're 12. And they can also consent to treatment for the prevention of HIV. So this bill here is basically giving the healthcare providers flexibility to treat that child. Why is that important? It's important because in developing that relationship with the healthcare provider, that child has to be opened, feel safe, feel that the information they say is going to stay there. And the bill says that the provider can share that information, but that relationship is sacred, and they have to be able to open and share it without concerns. That's really important when you're talking about treatment. The other reason why the committee felt that it was important to have this bill and to present it to the body is because the Governor's Commission on Suicide Prevention for the year 2020 has the following data. Suicide is the second leading case of death among adolescents. That is the truth. And listen to this. In Maryland, middle school,
is this on the amendment?
22.9% of the students reported seriously thinking.
I believe she's responding to why you're about your amendment.
Is this on? This is on the amendment?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. So this report says the following. In Maryland, middle schoolers, 22.9% of students reported seriously thinking about killing themselves, which is a significant increase since 2013. 18% of Maryland high school students reported they have seriously considered attempting suicide in the past 12 months. This is the Governor's Commission on Suicide Prevention. The data speak for itself. These kids need help. This bill before you is another door to provide help. So I would ask respectfully that you resist this amendment. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Carroll on the amendment. Forget that. Maker of the amendment. Maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to yield to my colleague from Charles County, if I may.
Floor leader, please yield for question.
Yes.
I guess I'm just, I must not have been paying attention. So if this bill passes without the amendment, my 13-year-old daughter would be able to go get.
I can't understand you very well.
I apologize, the mask is making it difficult. I'll try again. If this bill is passed without this amendment, my 13-year-old daughter will be able to get counseling, diagnosed, and treatment without my input. Am I missing? I tried to read it. I know it said 16 prior, but now she could go get counseling, erroneously or not, without my as a parent's input, as well as getting medication and treatment.
Not medication. The bill specifically very clearly states on page 2, line 14, that except as otherwise provided in the subtitle, if the minor is under the age of 16, the minor cannot consent to the use of prescription medications to treat a mental or emotional disorder. So you cannot consent to medication. The law stays the same. We are not changing it.
So the only thing we're changing is the consent that she will be able to get the treatment and diagnoses without my consent.
But the bill also says that if the provider feels that it is important to share the treatment information with a parent, they're able to do that. That is also very clear in the bill.
But right now, they can't do it without my input,
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
Maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate my friend, who's the vice chair of the committee, for going through the whole bill with us. That is not what my amendment does. My amendment doesn't strike the bill. It doesn't try to demonstrably change the bill. What my amendment does is that it puts guardrails on. This is not, I'm not trying to prevent children from getting the help that they need for suicide or for whatever reason. I'm trying to say when there are bad actors, of which I personally know multiple in our state, that they will be liable for what they are doing to our young children. That is what my amendment does. It doesn't strike any part of the bill. It doesn't have any impact on what children that are 12 years old are allowed to do in the state of Maryland. It says when, because it will happen, when a therapist goes over the line and abuses their power over a minor whose parents do not know that they are even in therapy, that person will be held responsible for what they have done. And I think it is the least that we can do, body, to protect some of the most vulnerable and also the most missed and overdiagnosed children in our state, which, as I stated earlier, are primarily young black boys, particularly ones in the school system. I actually had a child I went to school with whose family was told, if you don't consent to medication for this child, he can no longer go to our school. These things happen. There is a serious overdiagnosis happening. And I will just remind you, a mental health diagnosis follows you forever. This is not for the good actors. My amendment is addressing the bad actors in our state, of which we know there are many.
Vice Chair of the committee.
Yes, and I will say, and thank you so much, that an act or omission by a healthcare professional that deviates from the accepted standard of care, because this bill doesn't change the standard of care, is already punishable criminally and civilly. In addition, they are licensed certified by the board and are subject to disciplinary process. So this amendment is not needed because it's covered by present law. In addition, regarding the diagnosis following the child, we have HIPAA law that actually applies to that record for the protection of that child. So I respectfully request that you resist this amendment.
Madam Speaker.
Who is speaking? Who's maker of the motion?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. HIPAA law is not really relevant in terms of what my amendment seeks to do. And the biggest concern here is what 12-year-old child will know after they've been groomed for months by a therapist and sexually abused that they can file a complaint. Eventually, though, maybe, their parents will find out what happened to their child. And when that happens, I want to make sure that there is the proper legal guards in place so that that person can be appropriately punished for the despicable act that they were able to carry out on a vulnerable child simply because their parents were cut out completely of the equation. This is not asking too much, and Madam Speaker, I move the amendment.
Gentleman from Charles.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Vice Chair, please yield. Floor Lady, please yield.
Vice Chair.
I guess some clarification is needed on this. So currently, if a 13-year-old child is being molested by a parent, without this bill, they would not really be able to get the treatment that they need. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
That
is correct.
So I guess it's my understanding that when it comes to the parents actually being part of the problem, the reason this bill was put in was to allow these children to have a workaround or go around so they can get treated and taken care of without their parents being involved, because their parents may in fact be those abusers.
That is
that
correct. That is correct.
Thank you very much.
100%. Thank
Madam
you.
Speaker.
Maker of the amendment.
Again, not on my amendment. That has nothing to do with my amendment. But I will say, if there is a parent abusing their child and they seek therapy, that person needs to call the authorities. They are violating our already existing mandatory reporting laws, period. That is already a violation. So, Madam Speaker, I please press my amendment.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Roll call, Madam Speaker.
Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. Amendment fails. Gentlelady from Carroll in the Annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the floor leader please rise for a question?
Vice Chair?
Yes, I can't hear very well.
I'll try to speak louder. Can you hear me?
Can you raise your, pull up your mic, bring it closer?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to get some feedback, during this hearing, who was opposed to this bill?
1 second. Opposed to this bill were the following people: the Maryland Psychiatric Society, the Maryland Right to Life, HealthChoiceMaryland.org, Maryland Board of Nursing, and some individual citizens.
And the Washington Psychological Association as well?
No, the no position are the following. The Maryland Psychological Association is a no position. They changed their letter. MedChi is no position. Favorable, Maryland Association of County Health Officers, they actually testified that this was really needed, that they have had instances where they have not been able to treat the child because the parent will not consent. We have the National Association of Social Workers supporting it, which are the body that mostly see these kids. Licensed Clinical Professional Counselors of Maryland supported it. On Our Own of Maryland supported it. Chesapeake Regional Association of Student Council supported it. Free State Justice supported it. Healthcare for the Homeless supported it. Anne Arundel County NAACP supported it. National Association of Pediatric Nurse Practitioners Chesapeake Chapter supported it. Maryland Nurses Association supported it. Maryland Rural Health Association supported it. Parent Advocacy Consortium supported it. Maryland Association of Community Health Clinics supported it. Maryland Chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics supported it. Maryland Clinical Social Work Coalition supported it. And NARAL Pro-Choice of Maryland supported it.
Thank you. I think it's very important to note that the Board of Nursing did not support it, and I appreciate your list. I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment number 953-029-1.
Amendment number 1.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So my amendment is actually very simple. As we've already heard in the discussion, during this treatment, the treaters, the physicians or the counselors may inform the parent, and this goes to my good friend from Charles County's question. It changes it to shall. These children, and I stress children, are 12, at the age of 12, and we have had just in this body over the past 2 weeks been told that children who are 15, 16, and 17 do not have fully developed brains and cannot make decisions, proper decisions, and should not be held as responsible because of their age. And now here we are talking about 12-year-old vulnerable children being able to get this treatment without their parents' knowledge or consent, and I find that very problematic. I think this is pretty simple. If this bill is important so that these children can get this treatment, which I completely understand that, and our children have been through a lot this past year, and they are suffering from a lot of depression, a lot of situations that none of us ever expected. But I think it's pretty simple and pretty fair and pretty right to make sure that their parents are aware of what's going on in their child's life. So I ask for support, please, for this amendment.
Vice Chair of the committee.
Thank you, and I just received your amendment. So I would say that I ask the body to resist this amendment because changing it to shall takes away the discretion of the healthcare provider. Changing it to shall makes it so that the child cannot freely share. Changing it to shall changes the entire purpose of the bill. And that is not what the committee saw fit. The reason why we have may is to give the discretion to the healthcare provider. The bill does allow on page 2, line 28, it says a healthcare provider may decide to provide information to a parent, guardian, or custodian of a minor unless the healthcare provider believes that the disclosure will lead to harm to the minor or deter the minor from seeking care. In the bill already, the healthcare provider has the discretion to share, and the way it works is that usually when you go see a counselor or therapist, the best interest of the child is what's at hand, but they do try to work with the families. They do try that. They don't want to separate the families unless, like the delegate earlier stated from Charles County, that child is in a situation where the parent is the abuser, where that child is in a horrible situation at home, which is the case with some of these children.
Madam Speaker, if I may ask a question.
I asked the body.
She is speaking. Can you let her
Yes,
finish?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Have
Thank
the
you.
courtesy, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for letting me finish. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I asked the body to resist this amendment Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Colbert.
Thank
On
you,
the
Madam Speaker.
amendment.
It is on the amendment, Madam Speaker. So my question for the floor leader is, you're arguing against, of course, parental consent. I'm just curious, how does the doctor then get paid if the parents aren't consenting to their insurance being used to pay for these services?
Thank you. I had a hard time hearing you. I apologize. But I think I got it. You're asking how is a doctor that treating, or it's not always a doctor, it could be a social worker, how is that healthcare professional going to be reimbursed?
So whoever is providing the services,
So the bill,
there are parents involved, but the parents with this bill are being excluded.
Right.
And as such, there is a professional providing services, and the professional, one would think, would want to be paid, usually would be through insurance. How does a 12-year-old child pay the healthcare provider when the insurance isn't in their name, it is in the name of their
Madam
parents?
Speaker, this is not on the amendment, number
Yes,
one.
it is, Madam Speaker, because it goes to
And
consent.
number two,
It
and
goes
you'll
to
like
consent.
this, you'll like this, delegate. Number two, because we have so much on the agenda, I would like to special order this to the appropriate time later. And in that time, I would also ask all of the members who have amendments and have not given them given the committee the courtesy of giving them to us, to please give us those amendments. Do you like that, delegate?
Well, to the chair of Health and Government Operations, I very much appreciate you special ordering this bill. Thank you.
It won't be for too long, delegate.
Oh, okay. Well,
Long enough for us to see the amendments and to get some other work done.
and I look forward to my question being answered. Thank you.
I'm sure we'll do it at the
Question
time.
for the House is Special Order HB 132 and the amendment until the appropriate time later today. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Bill has been special ordered. Conference Committee report. House Bill 670. The clerk will read the bill on the Conference Committee report.
House Bill 670, Police Reform and Accountability Act of 2021, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Generally, the amendments convert the 8 Senate amendments into Conference Committee amendments and make the additional changes that were agreed to by the conferees. As you all saw on the floor recently, 3 Senate bills, Senate Bills 71, 178, and 600, were amended to include provisions that were originally included in House Bill 670. As a result, a number of the Conference Committee amendments are striking large sections of the bill. Specifically, Amendments 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, and 13 are technical, and strike provisions that were amended by the House into those Senate bills, again, Senate Bills 71, 178, and 600. This leaves only Amendments 3, 4, 6, 9, 14, 15, and 16 as substantive alterations to the remaining provisions in the bill. Specifically, Amendment Number 3 alters provisions related to an officer's actions at the beginning of a stop, provides for penalties if an officer does not comply with those provisions, and clarifies when an individual can record an incident. Amendment Number 4 alters the scholarship and tuition repayment programs to, among other things, expand the educational opportunities for individuals currently serving or seeking to serve as an officer. Amendment Number 6 narrows the liability of local governments and the state for intentional tortious acts or omissions or a violation of a constitutional right committed by an officer. That was adopted by the Senate and further altered by the conferees. Amendment Number 9 alters the makeup of the MPTSC to include 7 civilians. Amendment Number 14 alters the duty of the Police Accountability Board, requires the county to establish the membership, budget, staff, and procedures for the Police Accountability Board, changes the makeup of the county and statewide charging committees, clarifies and alters law enforcement officer disciplinary proceedings, alters the circumstances under which an officer may be suspended or terminated by the chief, specifies that polygraphs are not admissible or discoverable in a civil or criminal proceeding against an officer, provides that officer disciplinary files may not be expunged or destroyed, and requires MPTSC to adopt regulations to implement certain provisions of this act. Amendment number 15 strikes the bill's pension forfeiture provision. Amendment number 16 alters uncodified back of the bill provisions regarding the application and effect of this act, which goes into full effect in July of 2022. Move the amendments.
Motion for the House is to adopt the conference committee report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The conference committee report is adopted. Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the special order of the conference committee report until the appropriate time. That way the members can have the opportunity to read the reprint that's now on our laptops. It has some changes from the conference committee, and I believe if it's the speaker's wishes, we'll have a 15-minute recess at some point this morning for people to have the opportunity to actually read the bill in its final format.
Okay.
Thank you.
The motion for the House is a special order, HB 670 for 20 minutes? Later today. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The bill has been special ordered. The minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can you point us to where this reprint is? Because I'm on my laptop system and there's, well, is it the final version that we all need to read? Is it under reprints with amendment, the third reader? Is that it? Or is there a conference committee? I mean, I want to read this. So please point all of us to the right spot.
Should be a conference committee report.
There's nothing under that tab. So someone smarter than me, please stand up and tell me where I can read this bill.
She apparently is smarter than you. Okay, go ahead.
Thank
That's
you,
lots of you, by the way.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So if you go to the conferences tab and click on the down arrow, you should see the conference report there.
That, again, is just a report. Is there a reprint of the bill that we're going to be voting on? Yeah, the conference committee report just shows, if I urge all of you should be reading this before you vote on it. The conference committee report is one page, and it says the Carter's amendment rejected, Young's amendment rejected, West, it doesn't, I mean, with all due respect, Madam Speaker, this is the most important thing we're voting on outside of COVID. We really need to be able to read this reprint.
Madam Speaker.
Majority leader.
Thank you. The conference committee report and the amendments are listed on there. But in the meantime, why don't we take a break as was suggested for 15 minutes to give everybody time to take a look. Okay.
Okay.
And I've been told that there will be a reprint, not a one-pager that is not this full bill.
Okay, we understand that, okay? We have voted. So we're going to something else, whatever. How long are we going to be out? All right, we are recessed to 1:15 in order for you to read the report to 1:15. Can everyone go to their seats quickly? Okay. We're going to take an official break until 2 o'clock. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker?
I got you.
Okay. Clerk will take the call. There being 106 members present, the House is still in session, recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand recessed until Wednesday, April 7th at 2